you're watching this video, it's because you would like to know more about the Reader's Theater. It probably means that you're done with chapter 24 through 27 on Friday. So what you're going to do first is know that you can have a group of up to 3 people, including yourself. You can't exceed 3. You can do it individually or with a single partner, but you can't go over 3 total people. It should be double-spaced, Arial font, size 11, MLA header on the top, that whole setup that we understand now. In the final form, when it's completed, I'm going to be looking for spelling, capital letters, commas, quotes, making sure you've done everything grammatically correct. In fact, in the final draft, after you've made 3 mistakes, I'm going to scan through. So like if you make 3 mistakes in the first sentence, that's all that you get a grade for. So you want to make sure that these are grammatically perfect. Once again, you need the MLA header, and on the top of it, every person involved in making it needs to go at the top. So the 3 writers, or maybe it's just you, then you put your name on the top. They should all be between 3 to 6 pages. Now remember, they're double spaced, so in reality, that's more like 1.5 to 3 total pages, which isn't a lot of writing. That would be like, for example, writing 4 journals. That's about the same amount of writing time that could potentially take. Now, there are setup things that you need to know. Every play has to have 12 characters. Up to 3 of those can be narrators. So you can have narrator 1, narrator 2, narrator 3, but then the last 9 characters all have to be unique characters. The content of the play can't include any real people's names, even if it's positive, even if you're like talking about how great they are at like basketball or something, you still can't have their name. And it has to be school appropriate. Now, let's think of what that means. Sherlock Holmes had a murder. It was all about a murder. It was a huge climax, the second murder, but it didn't vividly describe how they died. It didn't celebrate the death. It didn't get into how they got hurt. It just said that they died, and then they had to figure out why. That's okay. If you're not sure if what you're doing is inappropriate because you want to do something kind of risky, like talking about like a murder case and someone's trying to solve it, if you're not sure about that, just email me a summary of what you intend on doing, and I'll let you know how to do that while still being school appropriate. For the dialogue, you always start with the character's name in bold and a colon. So here's Sherlock Holmes talking. He says Sherlock, and then he's saying, "It's elementary, my dear Watson," so that would be him saying that. Each time a new person talks, you start a new bold character name. Scenes always get described by a narrator first. So here's narrators 1, 2, and 3 of my story, and they're all describing what you have to kind of imagine because we don't have time to build sets or even have costumes. Instead, you have to use your words to allow us to imagine it in our own heads. Next is that they all have to be 4 scenes. Now, a scene can change by time. It could be the same classroom at 4 different times in the day. It could be 4 different classrooms, 4 different places in the world. It could be anything. It could be the weather. It could be a farm in the winter versus a farm in the middle of the summer during a drought. That would be a change in scene. If you have any actions, like if you want your character to like laugh wickedly or something like that, then you have to italicize it. See how this is tilted? That's italicizing. You just click the italic button, or you can select it and push Control-I. The rough draft is going to be due next Friday. So you're going to get sometime today and all of next week, about 15 minutes a day to work on it. What I'm not going to check in a rough draft is your spelling, commas, capitalization. I'm not going to do that in a rough draft. That's what a rough draft is. So a rough draft doesn't need to be perfect. What they do need to have is basically your whole script written out, so we can make sure that it is worth fixing, to make sure that it doesn't have any huge plot holes that make it not possible to be read by class. And then you'll have a whole nother week having them due on Thursday after that. But for now, let's just worry about getting the rough draft of the script done by next Friday. Now here's an example. These are example characters. So you see it's got stage directors 1, 2, and 3, a couple sailors. It has the names of characters with descriptions, and it also uses a little asterisk in front of a name. The asterisk indicates that these are people that are going to talk a lot. It might be nice to have this in the beginning of your play. Characters with the characters circled, a little description of who they are. Now in the actual play, it says something like scene 1, scene 2. Scene 1, and then it kind of tells you where that happens, but then immediately after that, it has the narrators. They call them stage directors here, SD for stage director, and they're describing what's happening on set. They alternate between stage director 1, stage director 2, 3, to make sure everyone knows what's happening, and then people start to talk. But if people are doing something, see how Farragut right here is actually shouting? So it says shouting up, so that way the reader knows, oh, I can't just say, see anything? You have to say, see anything? As if you're shouting. When you switch scenes, make sure you have your stage directors or your narrators explain what that scene is. This one, there's not a lot of description because it's a pitch black room. If your scene's in a pitch black room, there's not much to describe. Maybe you could describe the smells or something like that. Remember, the rough draft form is due next Friday. According to my calendar, that will be on the 8th. So on the 8th, rough draft, which means I'm not going to look for spelling or capitalization. I just need your 3 to 6 double space pages done so I can check, is it going to be good enough to bother to finish.